After more than a year away, we're finally returning to the Houston Zoo Recreation. Today we're continuing to work on hoofed animals, cats and more district, with one of Africa's most formidable animals, the Cape buffalo. Located between the African forest and African carnivore habitats, this is one of the oldest surviving sections of the Houston Zoo. Unlike modern builds like the Pantanal or Galapagos Islands, the area follows a much more traditional zoo layout, combining hoofstock, cats, and smaller African species in a single collection. Historically, this habitat housed white rhinos before later coming home to Ankole cattle. For this recreation, however, I wanted a species that felt a little more imposing while still fitting naturally within Houston's African collection. Cape buffalo, or simply African buffalo, are one of Africa's most iconic bovids, making them a perfect choice for this large enclosure. While it is tempting to consider a full redesign of Houston's older hoofstock area, we can't forget that many zoos also decide to preserve their older character, rather than replace everything with a master plan perfect design. This is what we are doing today, imagining that Houston Zoo acquired a herd of buffalo from say Denver Zoo's breeding program and decided to add them to their aging cattle enclosure. It's an interesting what-if scenario that we might see more of in future episodes. For this build, among the first priorities was ensure the appearance of the barriers remained as if they still held large hoofstock. Houston Zoo still uses a surprisingly heavy-duty appearance throughout this section of the zoo, often called hoofed road for a reason. Heavy-duty barriers help reinforce that feeling that buffalo are large and potentially dangerous animals compared to more docile domestic livestock. These formidable bovids are rare in zoos for a reason. Despite being grazers, they are often regarded as one of the more challenging hoofstock species to manage due to their fearless, unpredictable temperaments and strong herd instincts. The barrier itself combines concrete posts, steel cables, and mesh sections. This creates a sturdy edge to the habitat while still maintaining clear views across the enclosure. Although the habitat itself is relatively open, Houston Zoo still relies heavily on perimeter planting to create immersion. One of the advantages of building in Houston's humid subtropical climate is the incredible diversity of plants that can be grown throughout the zoo. Rather than creating the buffalo's literal African savanna habitat, the enclosure is surrounded by a blend of palms, bamboo, large shade trees, and dense understory planting. It isn't strictly African, but it does reflect the lush appearance guests actually experience walking through the Houston Zoo. At this stage, the overall structure of the habitat is beginning to take shape, with the planting helping soften what was previously a very open and somewhat barren enclosure. Behind the scenes, a largely functional holding building is needed for the management of large hoofstock. While mostly hidden from view by dense bamboo planting, these surface areas are far more important than many guests might realise. Indoor stalls allow animals to be separated when required, whether for veterinary procedures, introductions, or routine husbandry, while a dedicated holding yard provides additional flexibility away from the main herd. Rather than creating a highly themed structure, I wanted something practical and believable that felt consistent with Houston's existing service architecture. This is all part of the challenge when dealing with zoo recreations, when I have very few references for seeing backstage details. With the core infrastructure now complete, attention could turn towards the habitat itself, but often large hoofstock enclosures feel overly flat or empty, especially when viewed from multiple guest areas. Additional planting around the holding yard helps further screen backstage operations from view, maintaining the illusion that the buffalo habitat continues beyond what guests can actually see. Even smaller details such as the service utilities help reinforce this is a functioning zoo, rather than simply an animal enclosure. The biggest addition, however, would be the central habitat island. While buffalo were often associated with open grasslands, They spend much of their time seeking shelter from heat beneath trees or amongst the vegetation. The central island helps break up what would otherwise be a very open enclosure, while also providing additional shade opportunities. Raising the terrain slightly creates a more natural landform, while the layered rockwork helps establish the island as an older feature of the landscape, rather than a recently constructed mound. The central island is also home to several large mature trees to help create a dominant focal point visible from both viewing shelters, helping draw the eye towards the centre of the habitat. Cape buffalo spend a considerable amount of time around water. Access to drinking water, opportunities for wallowing, and areas to cool down are all important components of their management. One of these features is a pair of mud wallows. While simple, it encourages natural behaviours of buffalo in the African savanna, where buffaloes will coat themselves in mud to help protect their skin from insects and intense sunlight, while providing an effective way to cool down in warmer periods. Perhaps the most essential is the waterhole that is placed between the two viewing areas. This creates a natural focal point, while also encouraging animals to spend time within clear view of guests. Together, these features help transform the enclosure from a simple paddock into a habitat designed around the needs of the animals themselves. But even with all these features, it still feels half empty. The final stage of building a buffalo habitat adds these smaller details that makes it really come to life. Large hoofstock habitats can often appear overly barren if every surface is left as a uniform layer of soil. This is a fact many Planet Zoo players know and struggle with. The solution is not making a dense, lush jungle, because that is very unrealistic for Houston. Small patches of grazing vegetation, scattered stones and soil vegetation, and soil terrain variation help create a much more natural appearance, while also breaking up the large open spaces. Additional shade structures are also added throughout the habitat, providing further opportunities for shelter during Houston's hot and humid summers. Last but not least, enrichment can't be forgotten. From scratching posts to rotating food options, these elements help encourage exploration and activity throughout the enclosure, while providing a more dynamic experience for the zoo guests. With the finishing touches complete, the former cattle habitat has finally been transformed into a home for one of Africa's most iconic herbivores. The completed habitat now occupies the former cattle enclosure at the Houston Zoo, where guests can observe the buffalo herd in multiple locations, see how the central island provides shade and breaks up the enclosure to provide visual interest in historic zoo zone. In another area, buffalo gather at the watering hole, beat the sun with integrated mud baths, and find a spot to graze in the habitat, beating down buffalo tracks. While not the largest and most elaborate habitat within Houston Zoo, the completed Cape Buffalo exhibit demonstrates how even older hoofstock enclosures can be transformed through thoughtful planning, realistic infrastructure, and careful attention to animal needs.